Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello friend and ma'am nikmatuni ayah wa I respect. Introduce myself. My name is Salsabela Firstiyani, number 20 from accounting class 3C. On this occasion, I am here to present a final segment proposal to fulfill the final project methodology course, a segment with the title Calculate of Corporate Income Tax at CV Bangkit Cipta Anugerah. Okay, next there is the proposal structure that I will present, consisting of 1. Background, consisting of research background and research object background. 2. Formulating of the problem. 3. Literature review. 4. Purpose research. 5. Benefit research, and the last is research methodology. The following is the research background. Indonesia is a developing country that continues to carry out national development, which will have a positive impact on the country. Carrying out national development efforts must be supported by sizable state revenues. One of the large sources of income from the Indonesian state comes from tax. Many companies are established and operating in Indonesia, so this has an impact on increasing state revenue. Tax revenues received by the state are expected to be able to develop the state's economic sector, so that economic activity can increase the company's ability to pay tax to the state in an effort to increase state revenue from corporate income tax payments. Company operating in the manufacturing sector, location in Donowari, Bulakan District, Sukoharjo, Kabupaten Sukoharjo. This company has been established since 2050, and currently this company carries out domestic sales and export sales to China. The products sold are processed sonokeling wood product, because CV Bangkit is a relatively large processed wood company in the Central Java region. This research aims to determine the compatibility between the calculation carried out by CV Bangkit Cipta Anugerah and the calculate procedure in the tax on the corporate income tax, because calculating deposit and reporting corporate tax is very important for the state revenue receipt. And the next is formulation of the problem. The first is how to calculate and report corporate income tax on CV Bangkit in 2023, and the second is how is the CV Bangkit agency income tax calculation and reporting compatibility in 2023 with law number 36 of 2008 concurring income tax. Below there are three discussions about literature review, consisting on the first definition of tax, the second is definition of income tax, and the last one is corporate income tax. Okay, the first is definition of income tax. The definition of tax according to law number 16 of 2009. Tax is a mandatory contribution to the state owned by an individual or entity that is acquired based on the law, without receiving direct compensation, and is used for state needs for the greatest prosperity of the people, so that tax have a significant role or function in the state life, especially in the field of state development. Therefore, the government provides three tax collection systems, one of which is that taxpayers are allowed to calculate the tax on themselves. Of course, in calculating the tax itself, the government has also regulated the tax rates charged to taxpayers, both individual taxpayers and corporate taxpayers, which of course have a big influence on the state revenues. One source of state revenue comes from income tax. And then definition of income tax. The definition of income tax according to the law, the number of 36 of 2008, Article 1 states that income tax is impossible on tax subject with respect to the income they receive or obtain in the tax year. The income in question is any additional economic capability received or obtained by the taxpayer, whether originally from Indonesia or outside Indonesia, which can be used for consumption or to increase the wealth of the taxpayer concerned in whatever name and in the whatever form. In this case, It is a regulation which is subject to income tax. Normally, individually tax subject as tax subject can reside or be in Indonesia or outside Indonesia. The second is the body. Entities consisting of limited liability companies, other companies, BUMN on BUMD with any name and form, firm, kongsi, corporative in the form of business entities. The third is permanent establishment. Income tax also regulated tax object and non-object of income tax. There are many types on income tax, one of which is corporate income tax. Okay, and the next is corporate income tax. Corporate income tax is a state tax imposed on any additional economic capacity received by a taxpayer from a business entry, whether from within the country or abroad, which is registered and has a taxpayer identification number. Income obtained is subject to calculate payment and reporting. Tax on to the Indonesia government. In the subject of corporate income tax, there are three things that need to be paid attention to. Namely, the first is how to calculate corporate income tax. The second is paying corporate income tax, and the last is reporting the tax that has been paid. From the first discussion on this next slide. Okay, the next discussion is calculating corporate income tax. It should be not that there are three income tax rates that are generally known, including from the GZ is a gross circulation, and then GZ up to 4.8 billions can be calculated from multiplied 50% multiplied 22% from the taxable income, and then GZ from 4.8 up to 50 billions can be calculated from the 50% multiplied 22% from the facility taxable income. And the last is GZ up to 50 billions can be calculated with 22% multiplied from taxable income. Okay, corporate taxpayers, we have a GZ of the more than 50 billions in 1 year are required to do bookkeeping. That is the need to be paid attention to when calculating using bookkeeping is that the taxpayer must make a financial report, then make a fiscal reconciliation, and after that it can be calculated for corporate income tax. In the first way, we look at gross turnover from sales to determine the tax rate imposed. Then calculate the tax credit that comes from income tax article 22, 23, and 25. This tax credit is a deduction from the tax imposed. Then, this difference will result in less or more corporate income tax. And then, payment of corporate income tax. Tax deduction can also be called tax payment. The implementation of tax payment is supported by a proof payment or tax deposit. Tax payment letter as a proof tax payment, which was the chain with to the filing system called electronic payment letters. And then the deadline for the depositing tax in Article 29 is a maximum of 4 months after the end of the tax years. And then corporate income tax reporting. After making a tax payment, corporate taxpayers are required to report the tax they have paid to the Director General of Tax, which is done online by accessing the e-filing application. The deadline for reporting tax return for corporate taxpayer is no later then 4 months after the end of the next year. The next slide is purpose and benefit. Purpose is knowing the calculation and reporting of 2003 corporate income tax which has been carried out by CV BCA. Second, knowing the suitable of the 2003 CV BCA pensi income tax calculation and reporting with law number 36 of 2008 concurring income tax. And then benefit. First, can be used as reference to increase insight into the procedure for calculating, depositing, and reporting corporate income tax so that it can become additional knowledge that is useful when entering the world of work. And the second is the result of the things research can be used reference and information for the reading who will prepare a final assessment on the topic of corporate income tax calculation. And the last is the result of this research can be used as additional information, consideration, and input for CV BCA in carrying out its obligation for calculation, deposit, and reporting related to corporate income tax. The next slide is research methodology. In this slide are data classification. Data classification is first is that according to the characteristic is one quantitative data. The quantitative data used in this research are financial report, SPT, list of asset and depreciation in 2023. And then qualitative data. The qualitative data used is a general profile company, organization structure, job duties, the function of the each section of CV BCA. And then according to source. For the first is primary data. The primary data of this research does not use primary data. And then secondary data. Data obtained indirectly from other people. The data used is from a general company profile, organization structure, as well as financial report, list of asset and depreciation of CV BCA. And the next slide is data collecting method. And the first interview with the treasurer of CV BCA regarding the system for collecting and withholding corporate income tax in this year. And then 2 is observation. The observation method used is supporting documents such as good purchase transaction and other transactions that will affect the corporate income tax calculate. And the last is documentation. The documentation method used is income tax law, Minister of Financial Regulation, annual taxpayer tax return form in this year, and electronic receipt for the corporate income tax. The next slide is writing method. The first is description method. The description method applied in the research is to write a general description information related to the company as well as the systematic calculation, collection, deduction, and reporting of the corporate income tax on CV BCA for 2023. And then is exposition method. The exposition method applied in this research is to show information related to calculating, collecting, withholding, and reporting corporate income tax at CV BCA. This is my presentation. Thank you. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.